Press conference from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for Cardiff, but also some breaking news coming in that United have almost agreed a deal with Daniel James from Swansea. You'll have seen on the Transfer Daily, we have spoken about him in the past. Some really, really interesting points in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's press conference, amongst other things that Mike Phelan has been appointed as assistant manager, which we'll speak about in a moment as well. But let's speak about Daniel James. 21 years of age, he'll be 22 this this November. Playing regularly. I just want to say this as well. JC7 Blessed says, start leaking transfers so fans forget the mess we're in. Yes, I must admit, I even in my cynical manner with United, I hadn't thought about that, but it's probably quite a good point to suggest that, we've had Unfollow United, we've had the player awards last night, which we'll talk about later, which was a joke. Everybody's very, very, very fed up, and a lot of what the press conference was about today was about spinning things into a positive summer. Some very interesting things that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has said about title aspirations, the sort of players we're going to sign. Mike Phelan announced as assistant manager. Again, it's going to be positive. It is positive. I think he's a good appointment there. It's positive news to make us move away from what's been a terrible season, and maybe a transfer leak is a positive way. However, having said that, Daniel James is not James Rodriguez or someone like that. So it's an interesting transfer leak. I think it's an encouraging one. Sky Sports basically coming out and saying that United are very close to sealing a £15 million deal for Daniel James. If you don't know who he is and you're wondering why are we buying somebody for so cheap, he's only got a year left on his contract for one, so his contract's up in 2020, so that will vastly reduce his price. He's a championship player. He's played around 20 to 30 games for Swansea this season. Tricky winger. Predominantly plays off the left, so you start to think, well, we're well stacked on the left, aren't we, with Martial and Sanchez, and maybe it's an opportunity for Sanchez to go. But there's a lot of clubs looking at Daniel James, and I think they're looking at him for a couple of reasons. One, he's very high, very well regarded. He's an exciting player. He's a bum off the seat player who'll get you up off your seat, not anywhere else. Like I say, quick, skillful, but he is playing in the Championship. It is potential, and you get him for a very good price. He fits what Manchester United should be looking at. I said this on the Transfer Daily. He fits what United should be looking at, which is up-and-coming players who are going to be, talented players who lots of big clubs are looking at, who is looking for a next step, who's going to come into the club hungry, who's going to come into the club passionate and wanting to prove themselves. I think these are the sort of players that we should be looking at. Of course, what you should say is there's no guarantee it's going to be a success. And this is the problem with transfers, that any club, whether it's Pep Guardiola, Klopp, whoever, transfers are very subjective. Like, if we sign 6 players, they're not all 6 of them going to work. That doesn't work. I've said this for years, if you can get 70% of your transfers to be successful, you are doing a very, very good job. I think it's more about 50-50 in football in general. So I think it's a good signing if we can do it. £15 million, it's change, and he is a talented young player. But what I would say is, Sky Sports saying that the deal's nearly done. Simon Stone from the BBC, whatever you think about the BBC, Simon Stone, I think over the years on the United Stand, we've mentioned him a lot when it comes to transfers, very accurate. He said, no deal is close with Manchester United. Manchester United are interested, but so are a lot of other clubs. So it could be a bit of a red herring. Apparently he's a Liverpool fan and Liverpool are interested, but on top of that, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was asked directly about Daniel James, and he said, I'm not going to talk about it. I don't like it when other clubs talk about my players, Zidane and Pogba, so I'm not about to do that. No comment, but we are interested in a lot of players that we hope we can get over the line. He also spoke about the summer targets are about players that are going to be here for many years. I really liked this from Solskjaer as we move into what he said in the press conference. He said, the summer is about people that are going to be here for many years, and we're not going to move away from that. You look at Rooney and Ronaldo, they were not the complete article when we bought them, and they became exciting players, and that's what United fans want. The fans want to see players that are going to get them up off their seat, which I said. So that's positive. He also spoke about him and Mike Phelan have spoken about recruitment this summer and the sort of players they want to bring in. The targets are there. Hopefully they can get them over the line. And he would like to have them in as many as possible by July the 1st, because obviously it makes his job a lot easier. So interesting about that. Isaac Ulrich says, hi mate, thanks for all your hard work. Did you get your £400 back from doing that max bet the other night in Football Index? Yes, I did. I'm selling. Yeah, I bought too many shares in Bruno Fernandes on Football Index, but I am selling them. But yeah, and of course, Simon Stone is the person who said that Bruno Fernandes could still happen. That reminds me as well, just a personal thing. Last night I was at the Football Blogging Awards and won this little beauty, which is basically Best Influencer, as voted for by the fans. A lot of you people voted. A lot of the United Stand community voted. You went through the links and everything like that. It's a real pleasure to win that award. It's supplied by the sponsored by the Bradley Lowry Foundation. And if you don't know who Bradley was, he was a young lad who unfortunately passed away. Jermaine Defoe did a lot with him, and his mum gave the award away. So really, really proud of that. So thank you everybody, because those awards don't happen if you don't vote. So as much as it's me picking it up, if I win an award like that, you win an award like that. So thanks everybody for that. Really, really proud of it. But let's talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It's funny, I was watching MUTV waiting for the press conference to come on, and they had that clip because we're coming up for the 20 years. And Solskjaer has won it. And every time I hear that, the emotion goes up. And then when it moved off it, I was like, I'm really sad. I'm really sad because Liverpool are in a Champions League final, Arsenal are in a Europa League final, and we are just absolutely terrible. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer spoke about, I want those moments back. I can live with this. I can live with this. I spoke to a lot of people at the awards last night who were asking me about United, who aren't United fans, and I said, look, I don't expect any sympathy. In my lifetime, we've had it absolutely fantastic at United. Of course we have. But the position we're in, I don't mind the swings and roundabouts of football. I don't mind the fact that we had our time for 20 years and it's somebody else's time. But we should not be where we are. We should still be competitive. We're one of the biggest clubs in the world and we're in a bloody disgraceful position. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was asked about the season. Well, he was asked about last season. He said it would be miraculous for us to win the title next season. If we can it's about closing the gap on the teams above us. I don't like that statement, but it's true. It's true. I've said it. You've said it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's not lowering expectations. I think Mourinho lowered expectations. I think Moyes lowered expectations. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is in a position that none of those managers are in. It's a bloody mess what United are in at the moment, and it would be miraculous to win the league next season. It doesn't mean we won't win it. We won't win it, but it doesn't mean it's impossible, but it would be miraculous. It's a huge, huge ask. He also said that speaking about fifth and how how he's found his time. He said, I've looked forward coming into work every day. He said it was a great start. It was almost mission impossible to get into top four. We had a good start. Then we've had injuries and the competition of others, and we've just fell short. It was a miraculous target, and I think about the players and the emotional highs and lows they've had. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's got to protect his players, and I think a lot of what he said in that press conference is protecting that. But if I read back what's happened at this season from when Ole took over, it was a miraculous target to get top four. It was a very, very good start. But to start talking about injuries and competition from others, and it's been an emotional roller coaster for the players, up yours to the players. I've got no sympathy for the players. Emotional roller coaster. Oh my God, man works in job where manager changes halfway through the year. It's not an emotional roller coaster. Everybody goes through it. You've probably got jobs. Oh, my manager's changed. It's an emotional roller coaster. Well, here's your $100,000 a week that you get every week. I'm sure that's going to soften the emotional roller coaster. They're mollycoddled footballers. They live in a bloody world of cotton wool wrapping and bubble wrap. They're not living in the real world, and that's the problem with United players. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was right to say it was a good start and we just fell short, but we didn't just fell short. The fact that we just fell short is the most irritating thing, and he said it himself. There's been some games where you wonder, whether we've, put the right effort in. Those players don't deserve any sympathy. They don't deserve any emotional roller coaster. I know why Ollie's doing it, because he's got to try and build positivity again. He's got to try and turn us as fans back onto those players and start to love them again. But the reality is those players are the reason we're not in the top four. There's no excuse. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did a great job in 3 months. He put us into a top four race and they blew it. It's no emotional roller coaster. It's no injuries. They bloody blew it. And I'm not going to forget Huddersfield last week. I'm not going to forget Everton, Man City, Chelsea. These players blew it. And they, as for the Player of the Year awards last night, I know Luke Shaw's upset a lot of people. Arsenal will still recruit better than us, says Rafael Mora. Well, I want to talk about recruitment and the Director of Football on the 8 o'clock show, because there's lots to get through this morning. But I don't disagree with you with that. But Luke Shaw getting Player of the Year last night, I mean, people are calling him fat again. It's just mildly cretinous, to be honest with you. If you don't like Luke Shaw as a footballer, that's absolutely fine. But why are you calling him fat? Grow up, for for God's sake, just grow up. I always said the 2 candidates for Player of the Year this year were Lindelof and Luke Shaw, and I would have gone with Lindelof. They've given it to Luke Shaw. At least they got one of the 2 things right, because we haven't got much right this season. Luke Shaw's won Player of the Year 3 times. He deserved that. Player of the Month 3 times. So maybe that was the thing that swayed it. But it was Lindelof or Shaw for me. But the reality is, and the bottom line is, they should have cancelled those awards for the first team. Nobody comes out of this season with any credit. I really don't think that. And it was an embarrassment. But people moaning that Luke Shaw got it over Lindelof. I mean, come on. We can't get much lower than this. And as I've said before, if you think Luke Shaw isn't as good as Ben Chilwell, you're probably right. But if you think we should be signing Ben Chilwell this summer, you're bloody stupid. We have got 15 other players, that need to go out of that club before you even start thinking about Luke Shaw. So I think people need to understand the priorities of this football club. It's a bloody mess. And I don't think Luke Shaw is anywhere near, even on the first few pages, of the problems that we've got at this football club right now. Talking about the game on Sunday, he said he did mention starting the kids. So I'm encouraged by this. I am encouraged by this. I expect to see the kids starting against Cardiff. It's got to be Mason Greenwood, I would hope. Maybe to Heath Chong. He said it. They were his words. Unless I've misquoted him, he said we'll start a couple of the kids. So unless I've got that wrong, we'll have to see. The thing I like about Ollie, he's always optimistic. When he walks into the press conference, he's always optimistic, and he was optimistic again, which is good. He spoke about a couple of players that are leaving. Antonio Valencia, he said, unfortunately, Antonio Valencia has not been fit this season, but we're hopeful that he'll come through training over the next couple of days and we can get him a little bit of game time, which will be nice. He was asked about Ander Herrera, and it wasn't so positive, and I don't like this. I've got to say, I'm going to stand up and say, I'm not going to stand up, I don't like this. He was asked about Ander Herrera. He said Ander Herrera might play. He'll announce where his future football career is going to be when he wants to. He's going to PSG. That's why Ollie's saying that. And Herrera might play. I think is sour. I think there's been sour grapes between Herrera and the club for a few weeks now. I don't understand why Herrera didn't start against Huddersfield. He was the best player on the pitch when he came on. I think the club have spat the dummy out with Ander Herrera. But ultimately, as I've said before, from top to bottom, from the playing staff to the owners of this football club, we're a joke, and the way we deal with player renewal contracts is a joke. And if Ander Herrera has left because PSG are going to offer him a lot of money, there's only one person to blame for that, and that's Manchester United. He should not be out of contract. You can't moan when a player goes when they're out of contract. You've got no power. That's the whole point. You can't moan. They can feel annoyed that Herrera's going, but they messed about. He's been out of... This has been... the great thing about a 3-year contract is you've got 3 years to realise their contract runs out in 3 years. And when you leave it to the last minute and another club lawfully comes in and say, we'll pay you this because we haven't got to pay a transfer fee, and you can't afford to do it or you don't want to do it, you can't moan at that player. We've created this situation with Herrera, so to be moany about it and lack respect and not let him play a game because you're unhappy that he's going, it's classless. So I hope that Herrera plays on Sunday, because there's only one people to blame for this, and that's the football club. And they've got to stop letting these contracts running down. Isaac Ulrich says Ollie needs to add the Sir Alex hairdryer to his kit bag next season. Look, we've spoken. We will continue to speak over the summer. People joining a little bit late. Daniel James, 15 million transfer offer. Swansea winger, left winger, 1 year left on his contract. 21 years of age. Exciting championship quick winger. United apparently very close to signing him, according to Sky. BBC, Simon Stone, who I would believe over Sky, says it's far from done yet. There's a lot of clubs interested, and United are one of those clubs. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has said himself, hopefully we can get some deals over the line. I think we are in for him. I think it's an interesting one. I think we're good. I think personally, and this is why I want to do a show about it tonight at 8 o'clock and go more in depth in this, but if you want to think about it during your day, basically what I want to get is a debate going, because Friday night's always a little bit of a drink and a more relaxed United stand show. I want to really delve into how we're all flip-flops as football fans. I admit it. There's just elements of flip-flopism. If you've got any members, get the flip-flops up. Morally, sensibly, the signings of people like Daniel James, Barella, Pellegrini, De Ligt. De Ligt's world class. I suppose he's a bad example. But young player, Bergwijn, younger players in their early 20s who are at lesser clubs, who want to step up. There's a risk element, but they could be really talented players of the future. That's the right sort of player for United in the future. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's right. The players we want to sign in the summer, it's not about them being instant impact. It's about them being at this club for many years. That's the right way to go. But I already see people like Rance and Flex and other people on Twitter who I respect saying, Man going after people like Daniel James and ignoring Pepe and Sancho and stuff like that. And you think, have you got the patience to stick with these players who are going to be, they're not going to come in instantly and be very, very good players. It might take them a year or two to be good players. Have you got that patience of vision? Because to be honest with you, if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer signs 6 players this summer and they're all in their early 20s, we ain't winning nothing next year. It's going to be a development year. Have you got the patience for that? Have we got... I hope we have. I hope that we have. I hope when we lose 2 or 3-0 to Man City next season and we're playing these lads, we see that actually we are building something. We're just not there yet. I hope we have that patience. But football's a weird thing, and I want to talk about that later because we're very immediate. Football has changed in the last 20 years. We're instant gratification. You look at the Prat in the hat. Last week he's calling them their team a bunch of fucking disgrace, and then last night he's nearly, pulling them off. It's like ridiculously flip-flopism. That's stupid, that is. And I would hope as a fan base we're better, but we must be delivered with a good transfer window. If they deliver bad players, then that patience obviously is not justified. Kieran Ebril says, Jovic to United, what do you think? Would you be happy with that? I think it would be ideal for what we need. I think Jovic is a player that's been linked with a lot of players. I'm going to do him on a Transfer Daily next week, more in depth, but I hear the name Real Madrid a lot with him. If we could move Pogba off and get Jovic in and Bruno Fernandes in, I actually think that would be great for everybody. I think it really would. And Ruben Neves is another player I'd love. Mark, we can play Chong Gomez instead of Daniel James next year. Why not? Also, congratulations on the award, says Mark Whitten. Well, I think Chong's more of a right winger and Daniel James is more of a left winger. And I think what the thing with Daniel James is, hopefully the plan is still that Anthony Martial's our first choice left winger. But if you get dips in form, or you get problems with whatever people think the problem is with Anthony Martial, you put Daniel James in, and it's genuine competition. But he's only 21, so he's got that. He's not going to be a starter straight away, but he gives Martial a left wing issue straight away, and that's what you want, real competition. Sanchez needs to be taken out of the picture. So I think he's not a first teamer. It's about getting somebody in and growing at the club. That's what it is. Let me just see if I've missed anything else. Miraculous target. Technical director. You did speak about a technical director. I want to talk about this tonight as well. But again, in a sentence to get you thinking. I was at Man City last night for the awards, the Etihad. And I've never been there. I've never been to the Etihad before. And as I drove in, on the other side of the road, they've got another stadium, like a training complex. I don't look. Man City haven't got any fans. They know that, but they're not going anywhere. The structure, philosophy within that football club is immense. It is. I have to applaud it. It's amazing what they've built. I don't think a transfer ban will hurt them at all because I think they've got a structure and a philosophy. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be competing for the best trophies for the next decade, guaranteed. You go to Manchester United. We don't know where we're going to do. We don't know what we're doing next year. If you had to bet your house on it, you'd say we'll be battling for 6th for the next 5 years because that's the thing we've been doing for the last 6. So we're in a right mess. And then, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is asked about the technical director, and he's like, the club will announce it when they've picked somebody. But massive leaks again last night that it's Darren Fletcher. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not. He's not an intelligent pick for Manchester United manager. I, as a fan, want him because I'm romantic, but the club board probably should have gone for somebody else because he's a risk. He's a fan favourite, but he's a risk. But we take that risk on happily as fans because we love Ollie and we want him to succeed. You can't then do the same thing with the director of football. You can't appoint Darren Fletcher and expect the fans to go, yay, Darren Fletcher, old boy. He's got no experience like Ollie, but hey, he's a risk. Let's live in hope. You look at what City are doing, hope's not the word. It's proper infrastructure. It's proper planning. They're not putting their fate in the word hope. They're putting their fate in the word of we've got the best. And if we go and get Darren Fletcher with no experience as a sporting director or a director of football, or whatever role he's going to do, that's 2 people in key positions who were just going, yay, old boys, hope. It's not a good appointment, and I really hope it's not going to happen. What they should be doing is just going and getting Paul Mitchell. That's what they should do. All right, it might not work, but you're going and getting one of the best. Kieran Ebrel says, Memphis back, yes or no? No. And Mark Poultry, we need to sign both youngsters for the future as well as find some leaders who can take us forward in the tough games. I think the leader position has to be the centre-back position. That's the one that I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully we will get somebody. Please do drop a like on the video, everybody. Kieran would like Memphis back. I worry about Memphis and his attitude. I'm sorry, I do, and I don't believe Martial's got a bad attitude. I don't believe Pogba's got a bad attitude, but I think Memphis betrays enough in the public that I worry about his attitude. I just don't think, and attitude's always such a negative word. Like, attitude can be a good thing as well. An attitude doesn't have to be a bad attitude; it can be a good attitude. But when I look at Memphis, I see somebody who's very focused in on himself, a big believer on himself, a bit of a Galactico in many ways. That's why I wouldn't have him. I don't think we need those sort of personalities at United at the moment. We need grafters at United. We don't need people who think they're the best player in the world. We don't need that. We need grafters who want to come in and develop here. And I don't think Memphis is at that stage in his career. Plus, he's got all the baggage of, is he going to succeed again? I wouldn't. I'd be looking at different players. I really would. But, some people might disagree with me on that. I think the difference between Oli and Mourinho is one is sustainable, the other was instant. Oli has to be a project like Klopp or Poch, so let's be patient and grow, says Avijak Chatterjee. Well, that's the ideal, Avishek, and hopefully that's going to happen. Hopefully it will do. I just want to make sure I've covered everything. Oli did say it's not easy to get transfers over the line because the clubs, are difficult to deal with. Earlier the better, getting transfer targets in. He spoke about United men as well, because obviously Mike Phelan's now the assistant manager for 3 years. I'm happy about that because I was worried he was going to be director of football, which would have been a bad appointment. But he did talk about United men, and he spoke about Mike Phelan and Michael Carrick. And again, I think there's this obsession. Why does somebody have to be a United man to be part of this setup now? I think this worries me. Football's not like this anymore. Liverpool used to have something called the boot room years ago. Many of you would never have been born. And they basically used to recruit from within. Kenny Dalglish, Graham Souness, Ronnie Moran was manager. The little guy, Evans, wasn't it? It went on for decades and they were successful. And it worked and then it stopped working and it took Liverpool years to get something back. And Klopp's not an ex-Liverpool player, is he? So this has changed, but United seem to be going back to that. We're going to do a boot room thing. We're going to get old boys in. But there's no evidence that this works in the modern game. And if we were going to do it, it should have happened after Sir Alex. There is nobody at that football club now in the playing staff who's got any idea about winning titles. All right, De Gea's won a title. Phil Jones has won a title. Ashley Young's won a title. Are they real winners? No, they're not. We've lost our winning mentality. So going back to this old boys boot room thing, if you're going to do that, you do that and you keep the success going and you hope that can just keep continuing. To try and create a boot room situation with old boys now, when we haven't got any actual success to build it off, I don't see the point. There's no point in it. I think it's great that we've got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in charge with Mike Phelan because they've been at the club. But not every position, not every coach, every sporting director, every director of football, they don't all have to be ex-players. That, to me, I don't really see what the advantage of that. They used to play for United. They've been here for years. Well, in some ways, that can be a negative because the last 6 years have not been good. Fresh eyes, fresh ideas on the new world is very important. But that's just my opinion on it, really. Ajax is evidence that it works, says Black God. Are we going to compare ourselves to Ajax? They got knocked out in the Champions League semi-final. Shove your philosophy up your arse. You got knocked out by Spurs. It's failure. They got beat by us a couple of years ago. It's failure. And on top of that, people will say, well, it's not really failure because of their size of them. And then there's my answer. I've tricked you. You've walked into the trap. But Ajax are a small little Dutch club. But they run well. No. Ajax model is not Manchester United's model. Ajax is a small little Dutch club who every now and then do quite well. Then they sell their whole team like they will in the summer. Their philosophy is not comparable to Manchester United, and we should not be looking to Ajax in Holland for our philosophy. Look at Liverpool, look at Manchester City. They've both spent a lot of money. Their infrastructure is about building a club from top to bottom with the right sort of players, with the right coach, with the right people above the coach, and spending big, but also nurturing what you've got and getting the right philosophy in. That's the role. I know we don't like Liverpool and Man City, but they're the structures to look at. It's what Arsenal are looking to do. That's what we should be looking to do. Looking at Ajax, they're Dutch. They've got no comparison to the Premier League. They play in a league where them and PSV are miles ahead of anybody else. And every now and again they do well in the Champions League. Why should we look at what Ajax do? Ajax are a small fish in relation to European football. We want to be a big fish. Do we want to be a club that just continually nurtures young players and sells them off? That's the Ajax model. It should not be the United model. And United should be looking to employ the best of the best. Lots of people asked me at the award show last night, what do you think about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as manager? And I said, I'm a fan. I'm allowed to be romantic. I'm allowed to be passionate. I wanted Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as Manchester United manager. And I'm allowed to do that as a fan because I'm allowed to fall in love with the concept and the fantasy and the dream of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as manager. So I wanted Solskjaer to be manager. But when I look at it, maybe we did make the wrong decision. Even though I agree with it, maybe we did. Because I'm a fan and I get romantic about it. And I go, yeah, give Ole the wheel. Solskjaer has won it. What a dream, he's the manager. But I'm a football fan. The owners of that club are not football fans. They are not Manchester United fans. They should not be falling into the trap that we do, because it could be a trap. Oh, Ollie's at the wheel, romantic, la la la. They're businessmen. Maybe they should have looked at it and gone, screw the romance. Pochettino's the best pound-for-pound manager in the league. We want him. No, I don't care what the fans want about Ollie. We're going to employ the best because we're businessmen. So I want Ollie to be manager, but I do look at it pragmatically and go, well, what I want as a fan, why would a businessman want what I want as a fan? They're not football fans. They're not United fans. They should be looking at it and getting the best person for the job. And this worries me because it's the same with the director of football. They shouldn't be going, oh, Darren Fletcher, old boy, that's romantic, let's get him in. They should be going, Paul Mitchell at RP Leipzig. He's from Manchester, but also he's got a great CV. He's one of the best sporting director of footballs out there. Let's get him in. That's what our board should be doing because they're business decisions. We're fans. We're making fans decisions because we're romantic. That's why we're brilliant. We live on passion. They should be living on business decisions. And I don't think we're employing the best people for the job. I don't. We need to be united by talent from our rivals, says Brandon Keames. Yeah. Ed Woodward is the problem, says Tony Chamorro. Well, I've got an interesting concept on Ed Woodward. You don't know how much Ed Woodward is being controlled by the Glazers. You don't know whether Ed Woodward would love to be spending £1 billion this summer, but the Glazers say you're only having 300 million. We don't know. Ed Woodward could well be the mouthpiece for the Glazers, which is what people say. How much power does Ed Woodward actually have? Is he just the face to get all the crap? I don't know. We don't know these things at United because we don't get told these things. Maybe Ed Woodward's dream is to have 500 million this summer and really flex his muscles and get some really top quality players in. But maybe the Glazers have said, no, you're only having 150. And Ed Woodward will be the one who gets the blame. It'll be Ed's fault in the summer. Woodward. But is Woodward in charge of Manchester United? Well, some people think he is, but actually, is he paid a wage or does he take the profits? No, he's paid a wage. So, we don't know what goes on at Manchester United. The one of the biggest things this summer is what's the transfer budget. If the transfer budget is over £200 million, all eyes on Ollie. What's his recruitment like? Because £200 million is a good start. If the transfer budget is £100 million, he's screwed. It's not enough. It's not enough. So that's going to be a very interesting thing as well. People are so dumb. Ajax are selling all their best players now, Mark. He's right to stop crying, everyone. If people think that we should follow the philosophy of Ajax, I suggest you go and support someone like Everton because that's the sort of level that Ajax are at. Ajax are a selling club. Ajax nurture talent to sell talent. That is not the model that Manchester United have. And Ajax do recruit from within, but the people that are recruited from within do go and do all their coaching badges and get experience before they take the jobs. They don't just get the job. It's not the model for Manchester United. Do Man City recruit people like Sean Gota? No. Do Liverpool recruit Robbie Fowler? No. They don't. They go and get the best people for the job, and United need to do that. You can disagree with me. You can have a different philosophy. I tell you what, when Darren Fletcher gets the job as director of football, I hope it works. But I tell you what, I'm fed up of living in hope with Manchester United because hope's a great thing, but the big clubs don't live in hope. They have a plan, and we need a plan. We need a structure, an infrastructure, a philosophy, and a plan. And you need to spend money on that. And I think that maybe that encapsulates the problem. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Please do smash a like on the video. Daniel James bit is at the start if you've joined us a little bit late. Subscribe if you're new. I'm doing FIFA on That's Football at lunchtime, about 1:30. And what else? 8 o'clock tonight with me live. We'll be delving into the transfer philosophy and a lot of what Ollie said. And as I said, thank you very much for the award I won last night at the Football Blogging Awards. It was voted for by you. You can barely see it, but best influencer. So make sure you follow me on Twitter anyway. But at Mark Goldbridge, thank you. A lot of you voted. Would not have won it. I mean, what I would say is most of the fan awards last night were won by people from Arsenal Fan TV and Arsenal Fan TV because they've got 1 million subscribers and they're massive on social media. And when they say vote for us, they've got double the amount of people who are going to vote. I was up against someone from Arsenal Fan TV and you smashed it. So that was amazing. A lot of people came up to me last night and said, you've done really well to win that fan award, because Arsenal Fan TV would just use every person they've got and say, vote for us. And we beat them. And that's down to you. And it is your award. It is. I'm going to keep it. But it is your award because you voted. So United Stand won at the end of the day. I'm really pleased with that. Unfortunately, United Stand didn't win Best Content Creator because, surprise, surprise, Arsenal Fan TV won it. But we did win Best Influencer, and I take that as one for the team, United Stand. So well done. Thanks, everyone. Smash a like. I'll see you at 8 o'clock. And an interesting press conference. I think there's lots to talk about. So get your comments in below.